You are listening to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss our RC adventures.
Welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss the ups and downs of the new RC Flyer. Join your hosts, Michael and Jay, as they take flight at the park. Now on with the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast. I'm Michael from Arizona, and with me always are my good friends,
Jay from the hills of Texas.
And AK Mike in Texas.
And it looks like, unfortunately, everybody is indoors for the COVID-19 for this, coronavirus thing that's going around. And I have kind of been inside, outside. I've actually gone out to the field a couple of times, but you two boys have found each other and are now sequestered together.
Well, we're right now broadcasting from our bunker, hermetically sealed, 65 feet below the ground. So I don't know how you guys are surviving outside. I figure it's pretty much mayhem, killing, the maiming, for food and toilet paper. I don't know what, but Mike and I are drinking a fine Chianti wine by our simulated fireplace on the TV, and we're having roast duck tonight, I think.
Oh, there you go. Well, look at that. Well, if you are affected by the virus, we do appreciate what you're going through, and we want you to stay safe. So from the Park Flyer Podcast, all those people who are kind of having to stay home, we wish you that the best of luck, and hopefully you are building something. That's really what should be happening, right? Is that you should be putting a kit together or doing some repairs. Unlike me, going out to the field and wrecking my airplanes. It gives me something to do later.
Actually, Hobby King put out one of their ads, and it said something like, "Since you're stuck indoors, this is a good time to get a plane." Or, "We know what you're doing."
That's true.
You're doing your plane, and we're having a plane sale. I think is what they're pushing.
I did. I got that as well. So, well, as you know, the airways are not quite as filled with people as they could be. They've kind of put us on a little standby list, and so I've had a little bit of time to just kind of get stuff done. And this weekend is actually last weekend was the jet rally, so I was able to kind of slip out and go down to Tucson and participate in that. There wasn't a whole lot of people there.
Anything come home with you?
I did not.
Did you bring anything home?
There wasn't a whole lot of people there. Yeah.
What?
There was probably about 10 or 15 people, and most of them from local. We didn't have a whole lot of. There was a couple of people from California that traveled over, but most of us were fairly local, and it wasn't a whole lot of interacting. We kept our social distancing. Everybody stayed several feet apart, and they only flew maybe 2 people at a time because there wasn't like a big long line. And I actually, believe it or not, didn't take anything down there because, my F-15 was in the trailer and my L-39 is in the repair stage. So anyway, Spencer let me fly his A-10. So while I was down there, I was flying the EDF. So that was pretty fun. But we had a great time. I was only down there for one day. I had other stuff I had to get done, but it was kind of a nice time. It was the annual jet rally, and everybody kind of did well with kind of staying apart and not getting anybody else affected. But it was fun. I had a good time seeing the guys that I don't normally see from those that were from out of town that came into town. So
did you see any really good saves or really bad crashes?
Oh, yes, as a matter of fact. And I got to give kudos to Spencer because he was able to help. But so the guy has an EVO Bandit. I don't know if you know what of those are. So in the turbine world, BVM has a couple airplanes, Bob Villette models, and one of them is a fairly large, it's a Shockwave, Bandit, EVO, type airplane. But anyway, it looks like, I'm trying to think of what it would look like. It looks like an F5, basically. Oh, actually more like, the E-Flight Havoc that just came out. It looks very similar to that, but it's just 2 or 3 times larger. So anyway, the guy put the thing together, and he took it out there. Beautiful model, and he takes off. And as soon as he takes off and makes a turn, the nose starts going left to right. And as it's going left to right, he's trying to correct it, counteract it. It gets worse and worse and worse. So when he rolls into a turn, it kind of, settles down. But at the same time, when he levels the wings, it just starts rocking back and forth. And I mean really hard. And so anyway, I'm sitting next to one of the guys.
Kind of sounds like a gyro problem.
That's exactly what it was.
Ooh,
so the
geez.
gyro, and this is the problem. Once again, this is a good topic, but if you run a gyro in your airplane, make sure that your gyro has a switch. So if something goes wrong, you can switch it off. And he had set this gyro up to be on all the time. So it was on for takeoff, and now it's on for the flight, and he has no way to turn it off. So now the airplane is really bucking around. The faster he goes, the worse it gets.
So wait, Mike. So this wasn't like the first time he's flown it or anything like that, is it?
I don't know if it was the maiden or not, but I think it may have been the first time he put the gyro in.
Okay.
Or he just bought it. I didn't get the full story because I was sitting back, where we were kind of hanging out.
What I was getting at is if he had this plane, he's flown it before with that gyro, and I can see that. Then after you fly it, you trim it, and then you turn that switch off, just because you like the way it flies.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next thing I was going to say was that he didn't have it all the way level. You know what I mean? The plane wasn't level. He initialized it.
No,
that was
he had it sitting on the ground level, so that wasn't the problem.
Okay.
It was an iGyro, and the way he had it set up in his radio, and he was using a DX18 or DX20, something like that. But yeah, it was set up to where the gyro was on all the time. And what the problem was, anyway, he's out there flying around, and John Gerhardt and I were sitting there, and we were like, oh my gosh, that looks like a rudder problem, because the rudder was like, you could see the rudder moving, but when he went into a turn, then everything kind of slowed down, and it made a perfectly beautiful turn. But when he leveled the wings, once again, the nose started swinging around. Anyway, he tried several attempts to get it around, but it just kept getting worse, and he was wearing himself out. So Spencer walked over there and said, hey, if you want me to help you, I can try to get it on the ground, but I just can't make any guarantees. I'll give it my best shot. And the guy's like, yeah, I'm to the point now, which I will tell you that anytime you're flying a turbine or a big airplane like that and everything's moving, it can get very tiring very quickly, especially if you're under a lot of stress and you don't want to wreck a very expensive airplane.
Right.
So anyway, John and I were sitting back there. Both of us are pilots, and John looked at me and said, "I think that's a rudder problem." And I said, "Yeah, it looks like it is a rudder problem." And he says, "Well, why don't you just give it full rudder?" And I was thinking the same thing. Just put full rudder in it. That way the rudder stops moving. Now you're skidding around all over the place. But so as soon as Spencer, while we're having this conversation, as soon as Spencer takes over the airplane, you just see the airplane stop moving. You see the rudder full deflection. So the airplane's kind of skidding around. And he flew it around a little bit to kind of burn some gas off, and to kind of feel the airplane, what it was doing. But there wasn't a whole lot of rudder. It's not like a 3D airplane where you're getting, 45 degrees of throw.
Right. That would be bad.
Yeah, it would be bad. But anyway, it stopped moving around. So Spencer brought it around and touched down and got it stopped right on the runway, and everybody clapped. They're like, "Hey, good job!" And so Spencer looked down at the radio and said, "Well, you don't have it on a switch. We're going to correct that right now." So within the next 5 or 10 minutes, he whipped basically the programming and put everything on a switch so that now the guy could take off. And so they flew it again a couple minutes later, about 15 or 20 minutes later, after he had reprogrammed the radio. And it was a beautiful flight. The guy, he basically trimmed it all. But what they found is that the gyro, when you put rudder in, the gyro would fight it. So it would put more. So the more rudder you put in, the more, if you put rudder in, the gyro put more rudder in. And
that
so
thing flipped over.
What's that?
That thing was flipped over.
It would have, yeah. It would have.
No. I think the Demon or whatever it was flipped over, right?
Oh, no. It was an iGyro, and it wasn't flipped over. It's just the way he had it programmed. It was it was the gain. The gain was if I put a little in, it gives it a lot. so it was kind of like, going back and forth. But anyway, they flew it again a couple times after that, and it worked out really well. So nothing came home in a box, which was really good news. And then, everybody kind of had a good time. So Spencer flew his big F-16 and touched down, and I think something happened with the gear door, or the nose gear didn't come down. Or it did come down, but then when he touched down, it folded back up. So it wasn't locked. Anyway, yeah, because he was going to get pictures and everything, and so it kind of screwed some of that stuff up. But he was able to get the gear door back on, and the pictures look great. I'll post some on our Facebook page, but or I'll have him do it. But he modeled that airplane after one down in Tucson, and then basically he was able to take it down to the real airplane, and they did a side-by-side comparison of his airplane versus the real airplane.
And it's a Dutch plane, right?
It is. It's for the Dutch Royal Dutch Air Force, and it's on loan, from those guys down here to the Tucson Air National Guard Training Squadron. So
that's pretty cool. They must have dug that.
Oh yeah, he said everybody came out. They actually let him taxi it, so he pulled it out of the trailer, assembled it, fired it up, and taxied it out to the real airplane. So like they had all the guys from the guard unit, because it was a drill weekend, and they all came around. He comes around the corner like the normal airplane would come down, and pulls it into the parking space
really
underneath
far
the
away.
wing.
It's so small.
He pulled it in underneath the wing of the other airplane, but they do have some really cool pictures. And they actually have one of his airplane sitting on the wing of the F-16, of the real F-16.
Oh, very cool.
I was like, okay, I don't even want to know how
cool.
you guys got it up there. And he's like, it was a task. He said several of us, kind of hefted it up there and let it sit there. But it's got a good angle because you can see his airplane, and then you can see the tail, and then the tail of the real airplane to see how close they are. And I have to say, it's pretty dang close. So.
Well, I was going to say, you nailed it then, right? Because you did the graphics.
Yeah,
for
I
it,
did
right?
some of the. I did the graphics.
I knew it.
Yes, I not tooting my own horn, but it does look good. So now I just cut them.
What was that? I hear a train coming. Toot toot.
I just did them. I digitized them and put them in, and then cut the masks for him. But he actually did all the paintings, so it looks really good. And then their squadron patch, I had to redo all that from scratch, so that was kind of a pain. But it looks good too. And we wound up having to actually do dry transfer. So that's a new skill that Spencer decided to try and learn, and so he was experimenting with that. But it's kind of a long, drawn out process. I won't bore everybody with details, but it's like a 7-step process to get this ready to just dry transfer onto your aircraft. So, and any mistake along the way just causes it to mess it up. So,
remember? I think back in December, I was talking about it like a handheld little printer.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I got one for my daughter, and you just reminded me of something. So I got one for my daughter, and it took forever. When I got off of Indigo or whatever it was. Well, it took forever for them to kind of fill the order or whatever. So I didn't get it, but she just got it. Just showed up on her door. And so I called her up, and she goes, "Did you send me something or whatever?" I go, "Oh yeah, it's your Christmas gift. Christmas in March type of thing."
Sure.
And so she's like, "Oh, hey, thanks. I wasn't expecting anything." Well, I said, "Well, great." I said, "So, am I did I go from 0 to hero, or was it worth the wait?" And she goes, "No, this thing's actually really cool." And I go, "Oh, okay." So she was explaining it to me, and it's kind of web based. The software is kind of web based. You go on there, you do your graphics, you do your typeset, whatever. Mm-hmm. Then you download it to your phone, which uploads it to the little printer, and then you can print it out on whatever you want. So once again, you just reminded me we were just talking about the dry transfer and stuff. Once again, she surprised me because I was thinking, you can mark your stuff because she's in the reserves now. You can mark your stuff, or you could do this with it, you could do that with it. And she goes, "Oh yeah, but I'm probably going to use it for my nails." And I said,
"Oh, there you go.
Your nails? How would you do that?" And she goes, "Oh, well, the way it works is that you buy the transfer sheets that you use for models. Like you do for the water models. So it's
water
a clear
slides.
sheet." water slide models, right? So she has the sheet. She goes, yeah, the problem with that is that you're supposed to put it in a regular printer, print out the pattern you want, but you end up wasting the sheet, the whole sheet.
Right.
By the time it prints out to get this, 1 or 2 or 3 or, whatever things for your nails. And I said, okay, so how is this going to be different? She goes, oh, well, with this thing, all I have to do is I come out, I put down a ruler, that I'm going to use to, guide it against, and then I just slide it and, beep, beep, and there's the 1 or 2 things for my nails. I just cut out what I want.
Right. You don't have to
paper,
waste the whole sheet.
Put the rest of the paper back, and now I didn't waste the whole sheet, and then I can, dry transfer, or not dry, but,
water
transfer them with the paper onto my nail, and I'm off at the races. And I said, really? Wow, I didn't even think of that. She goes, I didn't either. I was just sitting there thinking about it, and I was like, hey, this is perfect for that. So, yeah, so she likes it. She was busy marking up her whole room and sending me pictures, and, you can put it on, you can get different, since it doesn't use a special ink, it just uses the regular cartridges for I like an HP inkjet printer.
Right.
So they have different inks for like doing stuff onto T-shirts, and you could do tattoos, you could do all sorts of stuff with this little printer. So anyway, so she's really happy with it, and I still think that for our modeling stuff, that something like that would be quite interesting to use.
Oh yeah, I'm sure, because it would have been beneficial, especially if it's a direct to a piece. If you can print right on the piece,
you print right on the piece.
Yeah, that would have been
and the cool part is it can print on glass. It can print
sure,
like I said, it can print on cloth material, glass, whatever, as long as you can swipe across it. And I guess at the base of it's like 3x3. I guess is the in a cube.
Well, as you said, if you can't, then you can just swipe it onto something else and then transfer it.
Yeah, transfer it over.
Exactly. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, so you guys got together this weekend and been doing
Mike
some
was he was
modeling
kind enough to jump in his car and bring down some of his toys, and our schedules kind of aligned, and he came down to have some fun, and we've been knocking it out the whole weekend. I guess we've been pretty busy. I mean, for projects and stuff. So Mike jetted down real quick and got here early on Friday or whenever it was, and we kind of unloaded his car, brought in all his planes, and looked at him. And I said, well, what do you want to make? Or what do you want to build? And Mike was like, what's the thing called, an MX2 or something?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, MX2.
Oh,
yeah, so he has this.
So you brought stuff in the box, right?
No.
No.
I brought planes that I had already put together, but they just needed something like the MX2 I brought because the MX2 I brought because I haven't flown that plane because it's a pain in the butt to get the battery in and out, and I just hate bothering with it.
Right.
And the battery slipped a couple times. It's like, this thing drives me nuts.
Right.
And so I brought it down. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna slice this thing up into little pieces, trying to make this foam thing work.
Sure.
Or I'm gonna, or something's gonna happen. Like, I'm gonna make something happen, whether break it or fix it, one of the two.
Sure.
But something's gonna happen. And so we started talking about what the issues were, and Jay goes, "Well, why don't we just make a battery tray?" I'm like, "A battery tray? That's a great idea. What are you gonna do for a design?" And so we start talking. And basically, it's just a C bracket. It doesn't have any sides because it's a thin hole. And so we didn't want to add extra plastic. Didn't need extra plastic because we just had to be able to pull it out from the spot. Because it's actually, the battery fits in there really snug, but it's a pain in the butt to get it in and out. And just generally, it's a pain.
Yeah, it's just big. It's just big enough in the fuselage because that's to slide all the way up to the cowl. From from the spar all the way up to the cowl, and there's nothing that
CG.
You can't pick the cowl off like in some models. It goes through the fuselage all the way up to the cowl, and the problem is when it's all the way up to the cowl, you're not sure if you get it all the way up there or not.
Did it make it the whole way or not? So we made this little piece, and then Jay came with this really great idea of having a hinged extension, so that when you're pushing it in there, you have something to hold on to. And when you get it all the way there, he put a little round end on it, so it snaps right onto the spar.
Yeah.
So it won't move around.
Yeah.
Right.
So it can't come back.
Oh, that's smart. Very smart.
Yeah, it was really smart. And so And so we put that together, and then while we were just fooling around, looking at it, and I was like, yeah, one of the things that I want to look at too is this this spot right here, and it was basically where the spar went through the foam. On one side of the foam, it was really open, like
it got wallowed out.
Wallowed out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Jay goes, well, why don't we just print a little spar holder? I was like, what are you talking about? I'll just print a little round thing and we'll put it on the end. It'll be fine. And I'm like, what? And so
you got to learn to speak Jay.
No, it made sense. I was just like, it makes complete sense, right? So we put this thing out. It's a 3 millimeter high thing. It's got 2 millimeter walls. It wasn't very thick. All I had to do is sit in the foam and stop it from wallowing out anymore.
Right. Sure.
And damn it, it worked like a champ. I mean, it was great. We printed a quick one out to make sure that the circle was right, that we measured it, printed a little sort of test piece, put that on. It was great. And then we printed 2 other pieces out to finish the job. And it's like, okay, now I can think of 2 other things that we can print out to do. You know what I mean? It just kept going from there. And,
once the juices started flowing, it's like, hey, let's print this out. Let's print that out. you put the herd on that 3D printer this weekend.
What's cool is these would all work on my printer too, which is a smaller one than Jay's.
Sure.
But that they would all work on that. Now mine, they're going to be in 2 pieces, so I'll have to glue it together. But it still will work if I want to print it off of my printer. Actually, it worked out that the pieces are exactly 100 millimeters, if I'm not mistaken.
There you go.
So that's as big as my bed. Anyway,
that's perfect.
Yeah. So we put, that alone just made it fun to fly, and now it was something I could do. I had 2 different batteries. If you remember, I bought some China hobby batteries a while back.
Batteries. Right.
And one of them is a 75C supposedly, and it's this big white thing. It's probably 1.5 times the size of most 2200s. Mm-hmm. Which is how they get the C rating, I guess. I'm not exactly sure what that's the case there. But anyway, so that one was heavier, obviously, but the plane still flew very nice. Like the CG didn't change so much that it was, unflyable.
Right.
So that was cool. So then I could put either one of those batteries in there. And then we flew it around and trimmed it out, and it had some real serious trim problems.
It was pretty interesting because we went out like the next day and got up there nice and early in the morning, and the 3 planes or 4 planes that we flew that day, it wasn't a maiden for any of the planes. It was like the re-maidens,
right?
And so with all the little cosmetic things that we did to like the MX2 and the other planes, repairing things, we got out there and they were all a handful. It was like they were terribly out of trim. It was like, like we looked everything over and had everything like good to go. But the minute they started flying, Mike's like, whoa, Jay, cause like I'm like walking off, it should be fine.
You tossed it in the air and then turned your back. That's all.
I turned my back and I'm walking back to get my stuff to fly. And Mike's like, get over here. Oh man, I need all the right trim you can give me, things like counting off, that type of thing. So basically we got all the planes trimmed out. And like I said, that MX2, once we got it trimmed out, it flew really, really nice. Now, we had another issue with it too, that Mike, he forgot a couple of things. Every time he comes down, he forgets something.
No, I didn't forget anything. I brought everything. It just wasn't the right everything.
Oh,
right. Okay. Well, okay. I guess so. It's better than last time because you didn't bring your radio. You brought a radio, but not.
I brought my radio.
That's right.
Yes. My radio,
I guess you're staying in suit with what you like, the theme that you like to do.
Yeah.
Sure.
So he didn't have the right landing gear for the thing, so we had to kind of do a belly land. And also,
which worked out fine.
Yeah. Did that one? Which was the plane that you had the new? It's not called an Escape. What is it?
The electronic speed controller.
Electronic speed controller. Yes, I don't want to. I don't want to upset the listeners.
But that was on the tough wing.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
But that one had a problem because we couldn't get the brake quite right. So, and that plane loves to spin around.
So speaking of the wings, so we fly like we normally do, which is fly around a little bit to get used to it. Try to fly fast around each other to try to crash into each other, and then we slow down, and it's like, come get me kind of a thing, you know?
Oh, right.
Because it's hard when you're circling around each other really to get the other guy.
Sure.
And so Jay gets to going, and I'm what I like to do is I like to come in below him and then hit the throttle hard and come up and smash underneath him for two reasons. One, I want to try not to catch the prop.
Smart.
Right? Because if you come in from the back, and then two, it's easier on my plane if I'm just denting the nose, and then also on his plane if it's just denting the nose, if the nose is being dented in.
Right.
So just generally that's a better way to go. Well, I don't remember the angles we were at, but however I hit him exactly right on the one side of the wing. It made both of our units pinwheel. So basically you're looking at two beautiful pinwheels in the sky. It was like they were spinning around at high speed because you couldn't even see. They looked like circles. I mean, it looked just like a pinwheel. And I was like, what is going on? And I'm like, how do you come out of a pinwheel? And I was like, what am I going to do? I was like, I'll just wait and see what happens. Because they weren't coming down. They were both.
Yeah, they're just still spinning.
Well, Jay's was.
Right.
Yeah, Jay's was sort of coming down, but mine was sort of staying in the air because I had that upward momentum, right?
Right.
And so it was staying in the air. And then eventually, like all of a sudden, it just stops, which is really crazy because it's pinwheeling around, and all of a sudden it goes flop, 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 and then it stops and goes straight down. And it's like, wow, that's crazy. And Jay had enough distance to ground to save his, so no winner on that hit because you only win if the other guy goes down.
I'll give you a win on that because I got to admit, like I said, that my mental image for the whole thing, because we were kind of playing or whatever, but I was just cruising. I was just like in my white zone. I'm just like doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. And that's when Mike hits me. That's when we're trying to hit each other.
It'll never happen.
Like I am mentally trying to get each other. We're talking to each other. Like I am coming left. 9 degrees. Okay, I see you. My speed is half throttle, quarter throttle. And we're trying to get each other, and we can't do it. Well, I'm just fat, dumb, and happy, and I'm just kind of putting along. He hit me perfectly. And like he was saying, now so perfectly that when he hit, I was like, oh, crap. It made that nice squap noise.
Yeah, right.
My plane lost all inertia. It stopped, forward motion in the sense. But to give you an idea of what, at least in my head, what it looked like is, remember when you were kids and you made those little triangles and you do the football things and you flick it from trying to go through the goal?
Yeah.
It looked just like that. So my plane was spinning around like one of those things. Now all the I didn't have a lot of forward motion, but all that inertia hit one side of it, and it just went into all the emotion went into that spinning, but it wasn't really going forward. And the plane just kind of was just doing that, and I just stopped and it started to fall, and I was like, oh crap, I got nothing. I have no speed. I have no nothing. It's just falling. And like you said, we were just high enough that I was, I didn't touch it. I just didn't touch anything. And it came out, got the nose, kind of straightened out, and I pulled it out. And as Mike would say, it was heading right for him, which was kind of funny. And then I poured the coals to it just before I got off the ground,
Yeah,
so,
he was pointing about head high, and he's pulling out of his downward trend, and coming right at both of us.
It was beautiful with the thwack, and the plane's just falling out of the sky. It was awesome.
That's when you really wish you had a helmet cam or something. It was one of
those things like, did you see that? Yeah, I did. Oh, at least somebody's.
The good news is that you were both there, so you could both witness it.
Yeah, we could both witness it. Right?
It would really be crappy if like a bird hit your airplane and it did all that, and then you had this story to tell where like nobody was there.
You turn around
and
and
go,
did you guys see that? Oh, I'm out here at the field by myself again.
Exactly.
The bird's husband saw it, but other than that,
there you go. No doubt.
But
that was kind of cool.
We had a really good day. For
what else? What else we flew that? And you're a glider.
Yeah, I flew my
and the Talon.
Yeah. Oh, and the Talon. We flew that one too. Yeah.
Which I didn't charge the headset.
Just for the FPV gear. That was the only thing.
Yeah.
Didn't charge or whatever.
Couldn't do FPV with it, but that flew.
But no, I'm really proud of Mike because, like I said, when we showed up at the house, we started working on stuff with the 3D printer. And, we've been talking a lot about just different things we've been designing or just trying to make.
Sure.
And so like I said, we were sitting there brainstorming about this, and we drew, a very crude caveman drawing on a piece of paper. And then we started to design it out, and I kind of got him going. And then I sat him down at the computer, and then, he pretty much did the rest. So he got to learn something. I got to, kind of work on a new project. Not to say that it was too difficult in a sense, but it was really nice. We were able to knock that out and make something really productive and useful with, for our hobby.
We need to make a skid plate for that Panther.
You think it'll work?
I don't know.
Because it's such a weird shape.
Is that
but it's
Jim's
got a
Panther?
handle, so you could slide it on or something, or clip it on because it's foam, so it'll clip around it probably.
Is it Jim's Panther you're talking about?
No.
It's a D35 or something like that.
You've flown it before. It has that really
EDF
weird
plate.
bottom where the handle's like this, a circle type, round circle type thing. And when it lands on that little handle, and because of the way it lands, it's kind of like landing on half a wheel, and it kind of noses over.
Oh, really?
It can never land right. It doesn't slide.
Right.
So it's kind of
right.
It's like a weeble.
Exactly.
Kind of it doesn't quite land right when you go to land the thing. But when the plane flies great. It's just it lands really weird.
Well, there you go.
But no, it was we had a really productive evening for knocking that stuff out. I thought we did something else. We built something else that night.
We worked on my throttle because my paramotor throttle didn't work.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
so
that's right.
So we went out to go fly it and tried to start it, and it wouldn't start. It was like, what's going on? I just started this like a couple of days ago. I'd been flying it, and so I was like, well, it must have been the thing down. Well, it turns out that the wires come out of the throttle control, and it broke two of the wires.
Oh, wow.
So we had to, and it was, guess what? It was the kill switch. So I don't really want to fly without the kill switch.
Sure.
I could, but I didn't really want to. And so we brought it back, and I was in a terrible mood because that's stuff I don't know how to do anything with yet.
Right.
And I was just like, this is ridiculous. I brought it all the way down here. I can't fly. It was when we went to go fly, it was beautiful. And there were a bunch of guys out there flying, and I was like jonesing to go up, and I just couldn't go. So when we got home, we're looking at it, and I was like, oh, yeah, I got to take that crimp thing off, and then there's all these pieces we're going to need, and there's, we're in the middle of Wimberley, in the middle of the potential COVID shutdown stuff,
right.
And all this stuff, right? It's like, this is essential. I got to get this from the store, But then I started looking, as I noticed there's a C-clamp right on the throttle cable, and I said, well, gosh, I could take that C-clamp off, and then that whole thing will come off as an assembly, and then I can just, let's do this. And so all of a sudden, I'm back to working on it. We popped it off pretty quick. Of course,
at first it was like
the
working
thing we're
with
worried
Eeyore.
about.
Oh, I don't know.
By that time, it's night,
apart.
right?
Oh.
Yeah.
By that time, it's night. And so here we are taking a C-clamp off. Who knows what happens to C-clamps when you pull them off?
Twang! There goes sailing through the air.
But we had some really good stuff going on. We had a paper towel underneath the whole thing, and we had hands blocking it from jetting away. And there was, we did some stuff to get that thing off, and it came off really pretty straightforwardly easy. And then so we disassembled the whole thing, and of course we broke out the TS100 and soldered the wires back, and dang if we didn't put it together. Took us a couple hours all told, and that puppy started up with the electronic start. I mean, it just went right up top. It was great.
Wow.
So for me, this isn't Park Flyer podcast stuff, but it's more about having a broken thing, taking a look at it, getting over yourself, and get to fixing it so it'll work again.
Yeah,
that's why I brought it up.
That makes a lot of sense. And, I think this year and just in the last 6 months or so that all of us have kind of, reached through that, or maybe a breakthrough, I guess, where we've had things, whether, it was one related to RC or not. But where we've learned a new skill or at least taken the opportunity to jump into something that we are not quite as comfortable with. On my L39, I stripped the paint. I'm looking at doing some fiberglass work and some other stuff that I'm not real comfortable with, but, I've been able to kind of do it and then, kind of say, okay, well, let me see how this works. And then have a mentor like, like Spencer, who's really a good guy that does, or have a guy like Spencer who's really good at, fiberglassing, and he takes a look at it and says, no, you should really do this, this, and this. And this is kind of interesting that you brought that up because it's a soldering issue, so it's electronic. At the Electric Festival this year, we had made a big order from Extreme Flight, actually from the Northwest Super Tim up there at Northwest RC. And he brought down, probably 10 different airplanes for us, for this group that was down here. We all ordered one. And I ordered a 60-inch baby metal MXS to replace.
That was a beautiful plane too.
Yeah, to replace the demonstrator that I sold at the Electric Festival. And so this weekend I was out. One of my other friends called and said, "Hey man, I'm going to go out to the field. Why don't you come on out?" And there was just the two of us. So once again, we practiced social distancing, and he was at one table and I was at the other, and we got my airplane all put together, and I took it out to the field, set it on the ground, added throttle, nothing happened. I don't know what happened. So I was like, gosh dang it, what's the story? So I came back and I was looking around everything, and I realized that one of the soldering joints, now I have the 3 wires come out of the motor, and then I had some extensions on there that went into the ESC, electronic speed controller. And so one of the electronic speed controller ones had come in and out a couple of times, and it had gotten a cold solder joint, and it wasn't making the right connection. So I just removed those, and I stretched the motor ones over and plugged them straight into the ESC. And
hard, isn't it?
It is. I plugged them right into the ESC. And so I had to kind of zip tie them to kind of keep them from backing out because of the tension on the wires. But it worked perfect, and I went out and I went to go fly it. And of course I have a demon in there, and he was standing, kind of close to me and, spotting for me. And so I took off and I did a couple of maneuvers, and then I did a vertical, kind of a tumble vertically, uphill. And then when I got to the top, I was slow enough that I put it into a knife edge spin. And so I knife edge spin the airplane down, and then I went into an inverted flat spin. And when I went to an inverted flat spin, I lost everything. I had no control. But the airplane had slowed down so much that it was falling like a little oak leaf. It just was twisting. So the wings were perfectly level. The nose was just, was kind of up in the air, and the tail was kind of hanging. But you could see the rudder was full right rudder. So I moved the controls, and I was like, no, because this thing is like working in slow motion. And, if you had ever owned one of those, early Cox models, and you read the directions and it said if you lose signal, run rapidly towards towards the model to see if you can reconnect the signal. The first thing I did, I just took off running. I was able to get all the way from the pilot box across the runway before the airplane actually hit the ground. It was going that slow. So I landed inverted. It did smack the ground. It broke the motor box off. It smashed the rudder. But the landing gear was perfect. The wings are perfect. The elevator, all that stuff. It really it just broke the nose off and smashed the elevator. So anyway, I was all upset. Well, to go back, when I was doing the knife edge spin, there was another guy that was there, had shown up just as I was going out to fly. And he goes, I don't know what that was, or if you were paying too much attention. He goes, but when you were doing that knife edge spin, you hear this pop, pop, pop. I mean, it sounded like, like popcorn. He goes, I don't know what that noise was. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know either. So we started picking up parts, and laying on the ground, just a little bit from the wreckage, are the 2 capacitors that come out of the ESC. Now I have a Talon 90, and the 2 capacitors are in the very end, and they're in a case. So it's all wrapped up. So it's not like they're exposed or that, they would get broke off in a crash or anything like that. Normally they don't because they're inside the case. You can just see the butt end of them hanging out. Well, they were laying on the ground. So, and neither one of them had the pins still in them. So both of them had been ejected. I'm not really sure what caused that, but they basically it ejected the capacitors out of the end of that Talon 90 from Castle Creation.
So that's a new feature on the Talon 90s, is the little rocket engines that they put in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway.
So did you see any charring on the wire, or does it look like something burned through silicon wires? I'm pretty sure.
No, the silicon's still in good shape. There's no scarring on any of the where they were pushed into the ESC. They just everything made the connection. Matter of fact,
what
ESC
about you said that you ran out of zip ties to hold some of the stuff together, so you used safety wire?
Yeah, that wasn't really effective.
Do you think the safety wire cut through the silicon and made contact?
Nope. It wasn't around that. It was holding the only thing that was safety wired was a zip tie.
Say that again?
Well, because the zip tie was holding everything together, and then I safety wired the zip tie to the other zip tie so that zip ties wouldn't move.
Oh, I got you.
Because I didn't want the zip tie just backing out. It was holding. It's plastic, and it was just holding everything in. And then I just zip tied the two of them so that they wouldn't move around. Because the last time I did that, one of the little pins came out because it wasn't zip tied. It was zip tied, but the pin still came out. So what I did is
I'm just trying to think of what could have caused this. So once again, you had
I don't know
what size prop is this thing supposed to have?
16.7.
Oh, okay. Because I'm just thinking maybe you were supposed to have a 15 and you had a 17.
No, I don't think
something simple like that you just kind of overamped it.
Yeah, no, it's a 90 amp ESC with a 6L. There's no way I got to 90 amps. No way. Even at full wide open throttle, I think the thing pulls maybe.
Right. With the proper prop. That does sound.
Yeah, that does sound like weird. With the correct prop on there. Yeah. Well, anyway, long story short, I sent you pictures, right? And you kind of saw the nose. Did I send you the new pictures?
You sent me some pictures talking about you're just going to go ahead and rebuild the battery case and the front nose because you can't get the parts.
Correct. So I went online. Extreme Flight has, because of this whole virus thing, a lot of the shipments from China are not able to come in because they're sending essential stuff.
They can work while they're in bed sick.
I know, right? Got to give me something to do. That's essential. So the fuselage is not available. And so I was pretty much, either I had to buy a new airplane, which, is very expensive, or I had to figure something out. Well, after watching Spencer rebuild some of these and hanging out with him, I thought, well, how hard can this be? I still have all these parts. So I just kind of took it all together and brought it into the house. And this weekend I spent probably about 4 or 5 hours, and I recreated a bunch of the, the wood that was missing, and totally rebuilt the box. I used the existing parts, put them all back together, and now it's good as new. Well, not good as new. It's obviously been Frankenstein together, but luckily popsicle sticks, balsa wood, and some other stuff that I had in my
bunch of prayers.
Sander. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now it's all back together. I'm just waiting for the arrival of the rudder because it's the only thing that and the canopy. The canopy cracked in half, so the whole front half of the canopy is missing. But the rudder got smashed. So those are the two items that I'm waiting for, and as soon as those things come back in, I should be back in the air. So I'm pretty excited about that because it is a beautiful airplane. So, but anyway, the whole point of that story, Mike, is that I did something as well. It's something that I normally don't really rebuild, models if they crash. I just was like, okay, I'll just go get another one.
Well, especially something like that, right?
Yeah, because I've had motor boxes destroyed, or the whole airplane. Although I will tell you that when I was at your place up in Alaska, when you were up there still, the Beaver, I spent a whole morning putting that Beaver together. And that was a pretty funny story because I got up at like 5:30 in the morning because I was on Arizona time. And I went downstairs, and his beaver was all crashed that he had just crashed it. So I spent all morning putting the whole box and everything back together. So I have it sitting on the table, and it's all back together. And he comes walking down there with his coffee, and he goes, "Oh, yeah, that's the beaver that I crashed." And he picks it up and chunks it right in the garbage. I looked at him and went, are you not going to try to save it? He goes, "No, I already have another airplane or whatever. I'm using all that equipment on." And I was like, "Did you even notice that the front nose looked a lot different?" Or he goes, "Oh, well, yeah, no, it's okay." And he just threw it in the garbage. I was just like, okay, that was 5 hours worth of work that I just wasted. So anyway, now I actually ask him, "Hey, are you going to throw this away, or do you want me to try and fix it?"
Yeah, that's pretty smart.
The good news is, though, is that was kind of my first attempt. Let me tell you, this one worked way better. I've gotten much better since then. I mean, that's been 4 or 5 years ago, or however many years.
So are you saying you had the pieces up, different part pieces, and then you just made new ones out of like tracing around them or something?
No, the pieces were missing. Like some of the wood is totally gone, right? But believe it or not, a popsicle stick, it looks very similar to what that little piece of wood that's gone. And so I would lay the popsicle stick there. Like one side does have it, but the other side doesn't have it. I was lucky that way. And so I just traced out, inverted it, so it's the same on the other side. And then I went out and took the popsicle stick, and I just put it on my sander, and I sanded it till it was exactly like the other side. And then I just kind of, blended it together. So some of the things actually I had to, they're like doublers. Yeah, they're doublers. Yeah. So like there's a piece of wood, but there's, balsa wood or popsicle sticks or whatever underneath it to hold it. But then other things where I actually had to create a brace, I just used the whole popsicle stick and made the new brace. So, but anyway, cool. I was pretty impressed with my own work, as well as, sounds like you were as well. So those are things that, in this particular instance, normally, if I wasn't sitting at home not doing anything,
had to go to work, right? Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, because you didn't have to go to work. That's the
right. So I mean, normally I'm in a rush. I'm like, oh, I got to go do this stuff. And so in this particular case, I was like, what can I lose? I mean, I can't. I'm not going to have a fuselage to go fly. And Spencer's done 2 of them already. He's really good at buying wrecked airplanes and then putting them back together. And I've been around there, for the last couple of times that he's done this. So I've been, it was kind of exciting. I was all excited. I sent pictures to my buddy Larry that's, was out flying with me. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, you get a new fuselage already?" I was like, "No, you got to look close at the picture. You can see some of the popsicle sticks, and some of the other wood that I use. But I'm really excited about it. So now I just have to figure out what kind of ESC I need to put on there, because I don't know if I want to go back with the Talon or if I want to go with something different.
Well, I've used those before. They work great. That's why I'm thinking something else. Something else is afoot.
Well, I did read on the internet. Of course, I got home and I started doing a bunch of research on it. And there's actually on the Castle Creations, on the helicopter side, they did say that there was some issues where if you plug the wires directly in, because they have little adapters that they want you to plug into. If you plug the wires directly into the ESC, that several guys had issues where it, did something and caused an issue for it to stop or whatever. So I don't know if that was my case, but I don't know. And this ESC has been sitting in my, my hobby room for about 2-3 years. I never opened the box because I was a helicopter one and I didn't have a helicopter. So I don't know. I think I could probably go with it again. That's what they suggest for this airplane. But I also have a Castle Creations ice or whatever it is that I could use. So I don't know.
Well,
what do you think?
Sometimes some of these ESCs get a little squirrely once you start getting above or around 6 cell batteries. They'll say that they're rated for it, but they may not be to the specifications that they're actually putting on them. Well,
Castle's usually pretty good. They usually say it's 70, but in reality it's 90. So if they put 90, it's probably 100.
Yeah.
But they usually go over. But I do know that some of the off-brand ones, they may say, oh, from 2 to 6 cells. You put a 6 cell on there and you just burned it up.
Yep.
But this one's, for a 500 to 700 helicopter, so they're using 6 cells on that thing.
Yeah, and they're putting some amps through it.
Right,
Right. That's
so
an
I'm thinking I might try it again just to try and see if it, if it was an issue. But I don't know. I'll have to think. I'll think on that while I'm waiting for my rudder
one
to
thing
show
real quick. AK Mike actually started our little plane challenge.
Oh, you did?
Yep.
What did you do?
I'm gonna make a T-tail out of it.
Uh-huh.
I dug out the front side for electronics and whatnot. It's a work in progress.
Sure.
I cut off the ailerons already and the elevator pieces. I'm not gonna put a rudder on it. Just gonna be a yank and bank. Being a T-tail is a new type of a control arm for me for that because it's gonna have to sort of snake around. Mm-hmm. So that'll be interesting to solve that problem and understand the mechanics around that. Basically I'll have some sort of what I know in the 3D printing world is a Bowden tube type of a thing where you put the wire inside a tube and then you snake the tube around. But the wire's got to be thin enough to be able to do that, but stiff enough to be able to push it. So piano wire or something like that will probably work fine.
Yeah, it should work.
Yep.
So I just to bring everybody kind of back into that, we when the guys were here for the Electric Festival, Jay had ordered 3 little Chuck gliders basically, and so anyway he challenged us to do something with them, and it's still sitting in there. Actually, mine is all together. It looks just like the package because Jay put it together, and I haven't taken it back apart yet.
I didn't. I was just fitting it together to see how the parts fit together.
And it's still fitting perfectly out there. So I haven't decided what I want to do with mine. So
gotcha.
Mike's off on hey, let's get something done. And he started out, but I've had so many other projects going on, I haven't had a chance. So, and the other thing I did is I blew up the switch on my battery case. So I went to the field the other day to go. I took all my batteries out to go fly, and then I had no batteries. I was like, gosh dang it. So I had to order a new switch.
So it just blew or what?
I'm not really sure what happened to that one either. One of the pins, it's a 3-pin because it's just a 110 outlet. And so I have a cord that I plug into it. So the outlet's kind of, in the case. And I was charging here at the house and I wrapped everything up. I grabbed everything, went out to the field, plugged it in, and it wasn't working. So we took it out and tested it, and one of the other guys that was there was like, oh, yeah, one of these pins is burned out. So I'm not really sure because it's got an on and off switch and the plug, so I can plug it in and turn it on and off. And I think somehow I must have either plugged it in or it got wet or I don't know what happened. But only one of the pins. The other ones all show, that they are transitioning through with the switch in the on position, but the one pin is not. So
gotcha.
Anyway, I got a new switch on the way, and it'll be here, I think, on, next couple of days. So,
gotcha.
So the other thing I did was I built the plane that you got us.
The
cracked
yak.
your cracked yak,
Cracked yak, yeah.
Yeah, so that was another thing that we're going to do some 3D printing stuff on it. Instead of putting the carbon rods or using the carbon rods and then making little adapters so that the carbon rods will stay in place and not go through the foam.
Oh, right.
So either we're going to make those or whatever, or just like make something that fits along the fuselage like you did the wood. Just make some plastic pieces to hold that rear end from twisting.
Yeah, so I don't really like the little posts that they give you for the rod to stay, kind of level. I really haven't found that the rod bends unless you go past the max throw, then it'll bend out. But I just took some balsa wood, some 45-degree angles, like triangle-looking things, and I just cut them in like a 4-inch strip, and I just put them right towards the tail. It makes it a little tail heavy, so it basically works in my favor because then you can hover it. I mean, you flew it at the Electric Festival. You saw how kind of almost naturally it wants to hover. So.
Yep.
So it worked out in my favor. So that's good. Well, that's one of those challenges because I got them, but they don't come with directions. So you kind of have to hey, what is this for? What is this for? Where does this go? But that's good that you built it. Have you flown it yet?
No, not yet. It's been a little windy. For that anyway.
Sure.
We probably could fly it tonight because it's calmed down outside and just go out and since it's night flyer, we can fly right in his backyard.
Oh yeah, that's true. Oh, you put the lights and everything on it
right
too?
out there. Yeah, I got the lights on and everything. Yeah.
Good.
So.
Well, yeah, we'll have to see how that works out. I'd be interested to fly it and see how different it is compared to mine.
Wow, I really have to start building mine. I have all the parts and pieces. I just got to put it together.
Oh, yeah. You need to get caught up with us.
Right.
That's been my thing my whole life, hasn't it?
Yeah. Catch up. You just got to catch up with us.
Yep.
Well, that is exciting. I've got a lot of little projects that I got to get done, because I've literally been flying so much, literally for the last, since this whole thing kind of came into existence, they've kind of had us, standing by, and, because air travel kind of went by the wayside. Nobody's traveling, so they've kind of got us just waiting around. But I've just been flying. I've either out in the front yard with the little foamies, or I've been out at the club or down at the jet rally. So I haven't had a chance to, sit and repair anything because I've been physically flying them all. So now that things have kind of slowed down a little bit, and everybody's kind of doing their own thing, I may have to break it out and start, repairing. Well, since I'm repairing the MXS, maybe I can get the other airplanes out and repair some of those. So yeah, I get called back up, build yours.
Yeah, well, I got to build that. I also, like you said, I got to do that little cheetah chuck glider. I got an idea of what I want to put together. Do that. I have a couple of. I got to finish the glider. The Radian Pro that fell apart when you went to fly.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So I pretty much have it all back together. I just have to glue on a skid plate on the bottom, and that's it. She's ready to fly again. So it's like I have like onesies, twosies of something to just a quick fix.
Sure.
On a bunch of my planes. But I need to get on it because right now, Texas is green right now. It's right. That nice temperature. Like Mike and I went out and it wasn't overly hot, but we still both got burned. Believe it or not, even though it wasn't really hot or anything out. The field out there is pretty nice. Mike helped me mow it, so it looks really nice right now. Fortunately, remember I told you that the P&E guys came out there and were doing all the
that's right. They put the fence up when I was there last time.
Right. Well, they've completed their job out there, so I guess they could have kept the fence out there if they wanted it, but they didn't want the fence, so they took the fence all down. They cleared all the stuff out, so that whole area now is all green because they smashed down all the grass, and then they came back and they planted new grass. In that whole area, so that they reseeded that whole area. Well, and then cool. While Mike and I were both out there, we were just about to leave. Cause first we drove in and these guys were ahead of us, and we're like, what are these guys doing? And so they had they had some heavy equipment, and they parked, they're like, oh, let's pull out, like they pulled over on the side of the road. Well, they pulled into the little road that we drive up to get to the field, and we're like, we're trying to go
and you're
there.
like, hey, we got to get by you.
So we drive by them, we're like, what are those guys doing? Well, we went and flew, did our thing, whatever. And then we're watching them work there, and we're like, well, they're working on the road. I wonder what they're doing. And then when we drove down there, sure enough, they repaved the whole road. Because their trucks were going down there. So now that road, which was all bumpy and potholes and looked like somebody was dropping anti-crater, anti-run denial bombs on it.
Sure.
So they filled all that in. Now it's all nice, and it's great. Now it's easy to get out there, and the only bumpy part is to drive up to the field in that little part of the road. So it's really nice.
Well, that's not too bad. It's only a couple, 200 yards.
Yeah. So it's not bad at all. So
that's very cool.
Beautiful. Well, and last night, like I said, right before we left, we were finishing the field up. We flew right before dusk, and it was just one of those beautiful, beautiful, beautiful nights. The temperature was just right. There was no wind. It was super calm, and we were out there flying. It was right at that dusky thing where you could just barely see your wing or see the plane. You just see an object. It was just beautiful. It was just a beautiful night the other night. So, yeah.
Excellent.
Quite the Zen moment.
Yeah. Well, the only thing exciting happened this weekend for us was somebody blew through the light at our club. Yeah. Because our club, it's on a dead-end road, It has
Yeah.
a fence right there.
Yeah.
Well, they were in a little Mercedes SL 500 and blew through the light coming across the street and just blew our gate about 100 yards away from where.
That must have messed that car up.
Oh, I wasn't there. It happened, like right as the weekend was starting a couple of days ago. But the guys that were there said, yeah, it tore the car up. They had to tow it out. So, but it was funny because I showed up the next day, and I walked in. I'm like, wow, where's the gate? They took the gate down because normally you have to get out, and it's a locked gate because it's on county land. And so anyway, I drove right through, and I was like, wow, I like this no gate thing. I didn't have to get out of my truck and unlock the gate. They're like, yeah, did you see where the gate was? I'm like, yeah, it was laying like 100 feet away from where it was supposed to. He hit so hard, he pulled the actual pole where the gate sits on the pole,
Yeah.
He pulled it right out of the concrete.
That was,
like the whole pole got ripped straight out.
Shortage of steel when they made that gate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that gate is heavy. It is. It's for like big trucks,
Yep.
So to be able to knock that, side completely off and pull the pole right out of this concrete.
Yeah, I don't think
that
you're
guy
going
must
to be
have
able
been
to buff
moving
that out. We're not going to be able to buff that out.
Did the guy make it? I mean, Jesus, that's
He did. They, I guess they said that the police were there and he was trying to convince them that his car got stolen. But I think
while he was in it,
yeah,
behind the driver's seat.
Yeah. Well, the funny part is
I
that
was stealing it back, and I was driving it so fast, I got out of control.
Yeah, well, it's amazing when you're under the influence. Some of the things that some things that you try to convince the police. So your car was stolen, and you know exactly where it was to come tell me that hey, my car was stolen. This is my car.
Yeah, it's got a GPS tracker, dude.
Yeah, sure.
It's fine.
Yeah, and I just came from a bachelor party, and they dropped me off, and I say, "That's where's my car."
That's right.
Let me out.
I just came to the
Do
field
you want me to
fly.
wait with you? No. You guys
Well,
go
you see,
ahead.
my iPhone was in there, and my friend had tracked my iPhone, so that's how I found it.
Yep, that's true.
Wow.
That's true. Well, guys, our hour is up. It has been a quick weekend, and sounds like you guys are having a lot of fun down there. I'm jealous.
We are.
We are.
So
It's true.
Yeah. Well, I will have to say once again that if you are listening to us and still affected, get out and build something or fix your planes. And if you can get out to the field, practice your social distancing and try to get this COVID-19 pushed down enough where we can restart our lives and go out there and have a good time. But definitely join us on Facebook listeners group. Our group is growing by the day. We get a couple of new listeners every day, and we welcome you. And feel free to post. I don't do that enough. I need to get more on Facebook. Thanks to Nick Turner and some of the guys out there are constantly putting little things on there.
Yeah, you're flying every day. You should be posting and putting a picture out there.
I know. I should. I will. I'll post all that online. If it matter of fact, I could probably post it before this comes out because this comes out on Tuesday, I think. But yeah. So let us know what you're working on, and if you're sequestered and get to turn in some wrenches, building.
I'm practicing social distancing by flying my paramotor.
Yes, that's true.
That's distance.
That is a good distance. Yep. Yeah, I went. One of my trips I did before all this happened. I was overseas, and my wife was really worried about it. And I told her, I sent her a picture, and I'm like, literally, I am the only guy standing here. I can't really contract it from anybody if nobody's around me. So I've been back several weeks since then. So obviously it didn't affect me, but she was a little worried. So
yeah, because you were in Korea and you were in Spain. So
I was Korea at the beginning, and then Spain later a couple of weeks ago. So yeah. It was very interesting.
It was great. It looked like it was like one of those weird disaster movies because like the whole city was empty when you were sending pictures back.
It was, yeah. I posted a picture of it was literally 5:05 in the afternoon. We were getting to the hotel, and I posted a picture of the street, and it's a 4-lane highway, and there wasn't one car, no people, no people on the sidewalks. It looked like one of those zombie movies, that everybody's gone. You're just like, wow, where'd everybody go? Very much unlike the U.S. People in the U.S. are kind of like, I got to go do stuff.
Unfortunately, it's that rebel nature that we have.
Yes,
They say, don't do this. Well, I'm going to go do it because you told me not to.
Right. So if having that on your mind, don't go build airplanes. Don't build any kits this week.
You can't build an airplane. Everybody knows
That's
that.
right. You just have to stay in and hoard your toilet paper. So I told everybody
we should have a TP plane building challenge.
I know we should. That's a good idea. We should do that. When I was at the club, there was like 4 or 5 guys there, and some of them retired, and they were really angry because these people were hoarding their toilet paper. And I said, I have a bidet in my house. Let's look who's laughing now, sucker.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, everybody made fun of me and said, "Oh, why do you have a bidet in your house?" I'm like, because I lived in Europe at one point, and my wife fell in love with it, and she's like, "Oh, I got to have one of those." But now, what can I say? I don't really. Anyway, I digress. Use your imagination. But I'm not the one having to hoard anything. So, anyway.
So anything, real quick before we wrap up, anything coming up? Big, any events?
Yes, the big event was Joe Nall. It's supposed to be right around the corner. I haven't seen too much about it. I don't know if they've canceled it totally. I'll have to go back and look. But some of these events, almost all the events that that we were trying to go to are probably going to be pushed off till later, I think. So nothing for me in the near future, at least in the next few weeks. Easter's around the corner, so we'll have to see where this thing takes us, and kind of touch base here in 2 weeks when we come back and see where we are.
Okay.
Well, luckily, I haven't quite figured out a way for me to work from home, but my wife works from home, so that's good news. And I think Mike he's working from home too. So
that's right.
So we'll figure that out. But if I can figure out a way for fly from home, I'll do that too.
Well, and I've always done the social distancing out here in Wimberley, Texas.
That's true.
I've been doing it for the past 2 years before it became this thing.
Jay's a veteran.
Yes, he is a veteran. He's a veteran social distancer.
That's
actually, my property as well, because I live on like 1.25 acres, and I don't really see too many people either unless I go out to the club, and even then, the club's in a big area. It's not like we're all standing around on top of each other. So, but.
Well, I just go ahead and put my arms out and do the helicopter when I'm around people. Stay away from me. Stay away from me. It works pretty good.
Arms linked, as you spin it around, people will get out of your way.
Yep.
That's true.
I get to the front of the line every time I go to the supermarket.
There you go.
I never have to wait.
Well, we wish all of our listeners the best of health. Please stay healthy. Please practice your social distances and build something once again. And I guess from Michael here in Arizona.
Jay from the hills of Texas.
Oh, don't do that.
And AK Mike in Texas.
All right, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Let's fly.
You have been listening to the Park Flyer Podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your next visit. Please give our show a star rating and review, and feel free to email us your questions, topics, or suggestions to parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com.